I think
All
we're
right.
live.
Yep, we're live and recording. I'll begin with apologizing for my absence in person, but we are on Zoom, and that's the beautiful thing, and probably the only beautiful thing that came out of COVID is Zoom. So this is the Finance Committee meeting for May 22nd. We have Councilmember Sires, Councilmember Wills, and Councilmember Klein, and then of course Deputy Clerk Nicole Birch. We were going to go over, we have our agenda and we just have a short agenda as two of our council members actually have to go over to council chats that will be hosted at the convention center at 6 p.m. tonight. So we've been working a lot with the council members behind the scenes and just preparing and educating for our cost allocation that we had solicited our CPA Tara Dunford for. And she has recently got that done, and that will be item 2. We'll begin, of course, as we always do, with the city's financials. As I indicated, I believe it was April when I presented to the city council, the financials had gone about 100,000, I believe at that time, under what we like to and what we feel comfortable with. The 2.5 for the general fund, a lot of autofocus goes to the general fund. We haven't ever made that a definitive by resolution, as we all know, but we it's a common practice that that's where we like to stay. We had explained to everybody that we had kind of already anticipated that based on our property tax payments coming through. We had spent quite a bit of our expense money on the berm, and then we were waiting for those reimbursements to come in. So we had been pretty forward facing with council, the mayor, and of course city administrator. As we ended April, we were at 3.2. I did think we'd be closer to 4. We did get awarded another award that will come for before city council for the berm. They actually are giving us additional funding, the Department of Commerce, so that will offset the amount we've already expended towards 2026 in regards to that southern berm, which is holding up pretty impactful. So I think that that's going to be helpful in our 2026 year. You will see we go through our year-to-date comparison. So our comparison to 2024 versus 2025. That's where you can see our property tax went up about 5%. We were anticipating 3.2 is when we kind of like did our, and I said that to you just based on my experience level and kind of where everybody else was trending. I was at about 3.2 on the increase to the property taxes that we were kind of going to see, because I just want to say really, I don't want to over exaggerate our numbers because that'll just stress me out more. So we just don't do those things. That went up about 5%. Sales tax went down about 1%. Again, that's one of those things where 25 to 23, it's down by 2%, but I think that there's a lot that goes into this that I don't think everybody thinks about. When you're talking about weather and the people that are coming out to the beach, and we did have where our clam tides were canceled for March during Razor Clam. Like, these things end up impacting that sales tax amount. We're up for a pretty big weekend with sand and sawdust and there's other huge events going on. That citywide garage sale, people travel for that, so we'll probably see something to that. Utility taxes, building permits, and hotel motel taxes all trended in the positive at 2, 8, and 1%. Real estate excise tax is down 10%. I I mean, 10% isn't, it's not like the end of the world, and I do think we'll see that go up. There's a lull in property sales a little bit. They're still going, but they're slowing down, and I think that that's my biggest thing, is comparing even 25 to 23 is almost not fair, because we went through that huge building boom. A lot of those taxes, a lot of these taxes go ebb and flow with that. our gas tax is down 16%. For whatever reason, that one surprises me. And the only reason I say to the committee to kind of keep your eye on it and why we're keeping our eye on it is because, as you know, 10% of that gas tax is what funds our street fund, aside from the general fund. And I think that's always something we should be watching with all of the maintenance and things like that. At least we've gotten, as we've built these relationships with Alex Severson, who's our street lead, I believe we've gone down a better path of using the transportation benefit district money and the storm money when it should be utilized. But it's just something to watch because our streets are only funded by general fund and that 10% of the gasoline tax. So we're just kind of watching it. It was the same effectively between 25 and 23. So that tells me at some point, I feel it will kind of trend back up. Will it get out of the negative? I don't think so, but it will at least not be this low.
Can I interrupt for just a second?
Absolutely.
And ask not about the fund so much,
Sure.
but as I see street repairs, the patches outside on the library parking lot, and there's a big patch at the corner of Mount Olympus, and is that Discovery? Not Discovery, the next street over. I forgot what it is. But anyway, these patches seem to be ever so much better than patches in the past. Are we using a different company this time?
Not to my knowledge, it seems to be where high grade is kind of the go-to, at least for Alex, and that's what was presented for the transportation benefit district. And it sounded like they had a relationship with them. I don't know if it's the oversight of our current lead at this time or our project manager, where they're really like going in and making sure. And you've seen with Becky, like if a contractor doesn't hold to the standard that was agreed upon, she kind of pushes back. So if you're seeing better product and better end result, I would probably give them the kudos for that, because they do really, between her and Alex, they really do stay on top of any project now that's going on with a subcontractor outside of our community.
Thank you.
Was there anything specific anybody had on the financials that we wanted to kind of look at?
No, I didn't.
No.
I didn't.
Okay. And again, if you guys do think of something, we're happy to correspond via email and then make sure that's a part of any meeting we have going forward, just to keep the public in line with what you're learning. So our cost allocation, this will be a little bit repetitive for our finance committee, but for the public and this recording, I just want to go over how we kind of got here. Years and years and years ago, and I might sound like a broken record, so I apologize if people have already heard this, but years and years ago, the city was making decisions to transfer funds outside of our enterprise funds, which are our utility funds, anything that's on your utility bill. And at that time, and again, this was years ago, the auditor's office came in and said, hey, you can't be making these nefarious transfers. You have to have some backing as to why. And at that point, the finance department and or city solicited the expertise of a group called MTG. And MTG puts together cost allocations, and the cost allocation itself is a pretty thick, above my intellect level of understanding. And I'm just saying that on the record, so anybody can take that to the bank however they want to. It's a lot of information that doesn't make, to me and to others, a whole lot of sense. And so when you say, this is why we're transferring out of these utility enterprise funds to the general fund, you can give an intellectual reason for some of it, but not all of it. So when I came in and we started doing the budget, I just didn't feel good about any of it. It didn't make sense to me. I couldn't articulate it. And unfortunately, no one could articulate it for me. So when we worked with Tara Dunford, who's the CPA, Tara said, well, I actually do this for other municipalities, and I can work with you to provide a summary and a more transparent cost allocation. And I want to say that in order to say this, when any municipality does their annual report, you are required to upload your funds and your fund beginning balances and ending balances and the BARS manual regulatory Washington state codes into their system. And when you upload those into their system, they either say you've done a great job or here's 732 errors. The city of Ocean Shores, when we uploaded this year, when myself and Shantae, our assistant treasurer, who you all know, uploaded that, we in fact got that 732 errors, and we went, what is happening? And so Tara walked us through it. And what that is several funds are not recognized in the BARS manual. So that's problem number one. But one of the biggest problems is the transfers for the cost allocations. They're not coded properly. They're not defined as the description properly. So when you have to correct all of these, you manually have to correct them in an Excel spreadsheet. The numbers, all of the figures, if you will, stay correct. And that's what the auditors come in and audit. But it's very confusing when they come in and audit because they ask you about numbers and you're like, well, that's not what's on your report. So that is all a part of this. It's a big, huge picture that one of each of these things impacts the next thing. So we said to Tara, this is where we're at. We have a finance committee and a city council that is actively about cleaning up our overall revenue and expenses. Why do we have 150 accounts that say zero that we don't use? Why are we making corrections into our annual report that we shouldn't be making? And then the cost allocation. So like I said, our cost allocation is about 50 pages, I would say, and 11 by 17 paper and 150 numbers, and they calculate depreciation, and then of course they calculate like my position. How much time do I work in general fund monies versus enterprise monies? And then they calculate that, and those are the things transferred. So what I'm going to do right now, and I wish if I was there, and not that would have been helpful for Vita, who's online, or those who are going to watch this recording after, but I would have brought the binder, which the finance committee has seen, so that you could see the difference. But we have effectively, with Tara's help, we have the summary, and can you see that?
No,
Let me make sure. Pay screen one. Share. How about now?
it says you're sharing, but there it is.
Okay. So what's beautiful now is in our budget summary, or what you'll see in our packets going forward, if this plan goes forward, and I'll get into that after this, is this summary that you would see would go in our financials. So anybody, citizen, council, finance, fire, whomever, could pick up this and understand there's a background of why we're doing it, why these funds are being charged. Of course, it says draft, the costs to be allocated. Here's all the things right out of the get-go that get allocated. These are the things that you'll know, that we'll be able to articulate that and feel confident about the whys. So this is just a summary that would go with it, of course, this is available in draft form to anybody that's interested, and I can also have Nicole attach this in its draft form to a revised finance committee agenda. Because we were still going through this kind of when we were putting the agenda together. But then what our cost allocation plan looks like now would be this. It is this simple. And not only is it this simple, it tells you where it's coming from, where it's going to, how collectively they came up with the number, everything. This brought up various other questions. And I just want to say this is one page to 50, between 50 and 75 that we currently get. So as we does anybody have questions about that? I don't want to continue to ramble on.
It looks great.
Okay. So as we went through this, I don't feel like experiment is the right word. Tara has a great word that she uses for all of these, but as we went through this, we recognized several things that were not clicking the box for us. Like, why are we doing X? And where does one get this number? And one of those that's highly impactful, two of them. One of them is that the previous cost allocation plan was including depreciation of buildings and equipment. And that depreciation value then got put into a percentage of what was needed to transfer, which doesn't make any sense, from an enterprise fund to the general fund. And there it would sit. It wouldn't say depreciation at 20% year over year for a biennium budget is $40,000. So take $40,000 from your sewer fund and put that into your sewer capital fund. We had it going to the general fund. So when everybody would come and ask for these things, it'd be a big, huge council piece or a decision, because it truly had to come from the general fund. Why were we not setting these monies aside if we truly were going to calculate depreciation, which is, by the way, not a valid cost allocation plan. So even if we should have, we shouldn't have been, if that makes sense. The other piece was every month a check for $48,000 is cut from the general fund to the storm fund. This dates back, clear back to something that happened after the Carrillo case. There was a bank's case, not a bank, but that was the last name, bank, case that came before the city, and the city won it. And however everything unfolded at that time, again, whether it was an interfund loan that we had in between those times, it was hey, we should be putting more money in storm because we're not getting that. As it all folds out, that should have ended years ago. And it has stayed status quo for all this time. So that is the offset, if you will, to that depreciation number that's no longer going to go into the general fund. Is that after an extensive amount of research, going through legal papers, going through personnel emails and what have you for the last million years is what it seemed like, that should have ended years ago. And so that transfer will not being made to the storm fund month after month after month. So that all leads to, this is the path we'd love to go down. We've had the finance committee meet with Miss Tara Reed so that she could explain it in all of her words of wisdom, probably more eloquent than mine. She is prepared, if the finance committee agrees, to be at the second meeting in June, and we will collectively between the finance committee, myself, Shantae, of course, and then Tara, express what we have found, express what would change if we made these changes, and then these changes, of course, align with the current BARS manual, so we're in compliance. That this be the way we go forward. If the council, that this would come in a request form, if the council then goes for that, we will begin the project of backdating everything to January 1 of 2025. So that our calendar year ends effectively completely within compliance and funds where they should have been and allocated how they should have been.
So, do you need anything from us here this evening, in order for Tara to come forward on the second meeting in June? Do we need a motion? Or do we just agree, or you said
As
this
long
is
as
council?
I have, I mean, you know, normally we would be in a world of, you know, is there any descending, not vote, because we're not a voting, but really as the finance committee and a group of 3, as long as you all feel comfortable in what you've been educated on and what we have provided thus far, it would just be a simple, yeah, let's take it to council. And then of course, your backing when we go to council based on what we've, and then again, we'll have Tara there because she did, I can speak to this all day long and how it brings us into compliance and my work with the auditors and all of these things, but she actually did the report, and I think that there's a huge amount of value for the council and citizens to understand what is looked through and why. And to my knowledge, I don't remember us ever talking about that in years past or having the actual consultant come and talk about all the things and the whys and one way or another, essentially what we're coming to council right now, opposed to waiting until the end of the year, is that we would like to get it correct at the beginning of this biennium. And so therefore, if we can backdate and kind of do the work, our whole biennium then would be in compliance. I will petition for this to happen no matter what, because I know we are not in compliance. And when I say compliance, because the question is, well, why haven't the auditors ever done anything like, you know what I mean? Because the BARS numbers are one thing, it's the money. As long as the money all shakes out how it's supposed to be, that's their focus. And the city has always done a very transparent job at the money part of it. It's cleaning up all these BARS numbers and things like that, to where when an auditor reaches out to me and they say a fund and I say, we don't even have that fund. Well, yes, we do, because it had to be corrected for us to upload the annual report. We would just like to see this happen rather than a middle, because that'll make this muddy. We'd like to see it be backdated to January 1 going forward.
I'm a resounding yes. Let's clean it up and let's present it at the earliest opportunity to council that fits into the schedule.
Okay.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's, thank you for even finding all of the problems. I can't imagine what it would be like to upload something and get 700 errors. So it sounds like this is long overdue to simplify, current life and life going forward in terms of financial reports, and also making them easier for everybody to read. Not just the council, but the public also.
Yeah. So, Councilmember Klein, did you have anything to add?
Not really. I think it's a great idea to have Tara come in and talk to council and the community, and I am excited to see this move forward because I've seen that notebook for many years, and you know, get rid of that thing and have a report that people can read and understand. And then we have a clear knowledge of where money is coming from and where it's going to.
And if I may add the cost component, the cost component for the previous cost allocation that we had, they budget about $25,000. I would say we're all in with Tara doing it for about $2,500.
Wow.
So that's also a big difference in our budgeting where in the
Yeah.
future, we won't have to, and I do believe because I was newer to this position and I have to go check. I could totally be wrong, so nobody put me on record. I'll go check. I do believe I actually did budget for the cost allocation to be started in 2026. So that could be 25,000 that we would assume back into the general fund. I'll check that out and let you guys know because that's a big difference. And then I do believe because Tara's big deal is for and mine and Shantae's is that we want to be able to do these things as a service to Ocean Shores going forward. So this is very much a learning component where we have been given the tools that we may just need a review next year by Miss Dunford, and we could take over doing our own cost allocation. So
That'd be great.
Sounds good.
yeah,
Yeah.
so that cost allocation conversation then moves us into our subject matter for number 3, which is the revenue and expense fund cleanup that the finance committee is currently working on. What the finance committee was tasked with and has kind of evolved ever since. They haven't got a good crack at it quite yet because all of these other variables continue to come up. So the initial project that we asked for the finance committee to help us with was the research. Here's all of the accounts. How long have several of these accounts stayed at zero? How long or how many of our different funds have just random fund numbers in them? Why aren't they uniformed? Why? And we don't get rid of these, we archive them. So we never just wipe something out of our system, we just archive them. So where you see an expense report right out of the gate with no expenditures but a few in January, and it's still huge. 90% of that's because nothing's happened. Like it, but you have to see all the things. So that's what we had originally requested the finance committee to work on as we've gone through the cost allocation. And then the finance committee has become aware of all of the changes that are required to be made when we upload our annual report. It's melded into a much bigger project. So after we all chatted with Tara, I said to her, okay, if we're not taking this to June, until June, I don't want to waste finance committee's time working on a ton of stuff that is really a mooted point. And she said, no. Aside from that cost allocation piece, there's still a ton of our funds that are not in the BAR's fund manual on the Washington State what do they do? The Washington State Auditor's Office. Thank you. That we still have a ton of them and they're in red and we have files. And so we wanted to bring to the public and then of course on the recording and in our regulatory finance committee where we were going and what the cost allocation was look like, and then that your finance committee and your finance team will be working on that other component while we bring the cost allocation forward and even thereafter. And I do believe that, and correct me if I'm wrong, we kind of talked about being all wrapped up. Wasn't it by like August? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and there's not a bunch of budget amendments and stuff like that. We're archiving, we're not getting rid of, we're not adding to at this time. There, and there's a lot more that we'll have. You guys have already heard a lot of it with the fund, specifically 439, which is our shared utility fund. We want to just kind of get rid of that. It's just a ridiculous fund to even have. And we'll allow Tara to go over that more at our council meeting and kind of just everybody's going to be working on that. So the finance committee and your finance team will be doing work sessions where we're gonna collectively together put it on a big screen and kind of go through everything and really, really bring down the volume of our financials. We're a city of 8,000. We do about 49 million annually in revenue and expenditures. There's no reason for our revenue and expense reporting to look the way it does. We have the ability to be a lot more streamlined and a lot cleaner. And something Shantae and I just spoke about yesterday is I think that that would have made ClearGov and the budget process a lot easier, because we had to go through all of those empty accounts. And does anything belong there? Should anything belong there? It adds a lot of unnecessary work, and it muddies the waters, in our opinion. So that's kind of where we wanted to go with number 3. It was just kind of telling everybody that is listening or going to watch the recording later of what the finance committee is going to be working on between now and then. And then what our anticipated date for Tara to come to city council, and that we will be at that council meeting asking for approval to move forward. And by moving forward, that would be that backdating all of our expenditures and revenues properly and correctly to January 1. And that's
Sounds good.
for those 3 things.
Yep, sounds good to
Sounds
me
great
too.
to me.
As a reminder, I don't know if you guys want to make a announcement, because I know you're going to city chats, which is kind of perfect for me. We do have on our city website and our city social media page that our accounting system will be down between now and Tuesday, as we have been during all of this working on a massive upgrade. We were one of 2-ish municipalities that were still in a basic accounting system through Springbrook. We've now gone to the cloud, which gives us a ton of availability for different reportings and how we provide customer service. So this has been a long time coming, and probably should have been done years ago, but we pulled the pin today, so who knows what Tuesday will look like. But if you guys want to relay that message, that would be great, just in case anybody's trying to make payments or anything like that. We will be happy to accommodate by Tuesday.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Do you guys have anything else?
No, I
No.
don't.
I appreciate all the work you guys have been put into this, you and Shantae.
Oh yeah, it's the whole team. Everybody has to touch something, all the way
Yeah.
down to utility billing, accounts payable. Everybody's had to have an impact on all of it. So
Well, and I think cleaning it all up is gonna make it easy for all the department heads too.
oh yeah,
They will be thrilled.
just searching for things or knowing what something should come out of, and understanding that it's the bottom line of your department, not necessarily that line item. And I think that we break so many things up that it's really all of our invoices are public knowledge. They're all on our laser. If we're buying pencils, you're going to see a invoice for pencils. Like that's, so I think it'll be better. And I think, again, my big thing is transparency. That's just something I'll never not give up on. So it'll be better.
Yeah, thank you for tackling all these legacy problems. I mean, they seem to have been going on for a long time. And I know it's time intensive now, but thank you for tackling them.
Yeah, thank you guys for helping. It would be hard if we didn't have a finance committee that was willing to come in on the extra hours and work on them. So,
Of course.
all right, well, that's all I have. Have a great time at City Chats.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
you, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.